showing 6 o'clock, so whenever Curtis gives us the high sign, which he has now, so we'll call our meeting to order. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda? If not, we'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support, last chance. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We have an agenda. Roll has been taken.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we have roll. Next up is Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Rex?
Hi. You survived.
Survived the first day.
Here I am.
There you go.
They're all smaller than you.
Just a couple hundred of us.
Stop number, yeah.
5,000 to 1.
Okay, we'll move down to request for purchase. First up, we have consideration of a resolution. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Minutes, I went beyond that. We'll entertain a motion for the minutes of the August 8, 2023 regular session. My pleasure.
Support.
Motion support, any comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Now, request for purchase. We're to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase to Kennedy Industries in the amount of $23,792 for 2 lift station pump packages for wastewater lift stations 9 and 10. Your pleasure.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support, background?
Yes,
Color?
yes, these are 2 lift station pumps for Arcata Township, which will be reimbursed by the township. A couple meetings ago, you approved the electrical and moving of some of the cabinets and such to get them ready for these 2 pumps. So that is something that, like I said, will be reimbursed by Arcata Township.
And this is a safer system?
It's just an updated system. The pumps that have been out there since, gosh, probably the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, Dave. What?
Original from the mid-70s.
Original 70s, even worse, so, yeah.
Yeah. We got the money's worth.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. We've purchased a couple pumps. Moving to resolutions. First up, we're to consider a resolution proclaiming Tuesday, October 31st as Halloween in the city of Alma and setting the trick-or-treat hours between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m.
Move to adopt, because I know that we need to clear.
Support for Halloween.
Okay, any of your comments or questions, objections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. We're going to have Halloween. Buy your candy.
On Halloween.
On Halloween, yes. Next, we are to consider a resolution to approve a request from the Pine Knot Bar to host a live band in their rear parking lot from 8:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. on Friday, August 25th, 2023, pursuant to ordinance number 605, which allows the commission to approve a variance to the noise ordinance. Your pleasure on this one.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion and support. Any comments from staff?
They had a live band here about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. Worked out good for them, well for them, so they'd like to host another band and has come before and requested. But it's nice when people come to us and request things as opposed to just going ahead and doing them. So it's much appreciated by us and then everybody has to enforce things. So.
No negative comments, I assume, on the
I
list?
did not receive a phone call
The
or
neighbors didn't object.
any phone calls, and the police didn't come over and say, hey, things were out of hand or anything.
And shut them down.
Yeah.
Well, good. Okay, anything else? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we are to consider a resolution ratifying the following investments from the city funds. And there's a whole host of both CDs, cedar deposits, and treasury notes that were buying, so I guess your pleasure.
Move to adopt. Support.
And motion support. Comments or questions? You wanna-
Yes, you see so many of those. We've just been going through the last few meetings of taking on new financial institutions to invest with. Our discussion we had many months ago, almost now, about diversifying some of our investment portfolio out of just a Michigan class. So as you can see with the interest rates, very favorable to what Michigan class is doing, and then also helps us to spread out when things are coming due and coming in. And I think Curtis and his team have done a good job of picking, the different varieties of timing for the investments to go out and come back in for immediate cash flow. So we've been very pleased with the numbers. I mean, Josh, 7-8 months ago, we were just over 2% maybe, and now we're
Happy to get that.
And happy to get that, yeah. So
Now they're all in the vicinity of 5.
some good news, and like I said, the board was liking to diversify some of our investments. So that's
Nice work, Curtis and your team. Thank you. Anybody else? Comments, questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried and we ratified those investments. Thank you. Moving down to reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. Tonight before us, we have the Elma Police Department July 2023 report, the Finance July 2023 report, and the City Manager's newsletter. Your pleasure.
Move to receive 1 and 2.
Support.
A motion for 1 and 2. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We've received 2 reports. Motion on City Manager's report.
Move to receive number 3.
Got a motion support.
okay. Here we go.
Take it away.
All right, first item is talk a little bit about the police department merger information that was provided in your packet. Since May, the City of Elma staffs and St. Louis staffs have been meeting and to discuss something that's come up multiple times over the years, which is there a benefit to merging the departments in some way? We've obviously but we have been meeting since May, and we got to the point where it was like, I think our next best step is to bring this before the elected bodies. And we have provided some bullet points about our discussions about the benefits of doing that and the reasons to do that, a merger in some way between our 2 departments. And really it comes down to today's environment, especially for small jurisdiction of recruitment and retention of qualified people, and then the training of those officers and keeping them here. Things have gone very positively. The St. Louis Council did meet last Tuesday and discuss the exact same points that are in your packet. And even though no commitments were made, everyone was in agreement to proceed forward with the discussion, to do more research, and to provide to the elected bodies and to the general public. Obviously, where we're at currently is a long way from where, if we do go down the road or end up at the end of the road of a merger, there's a long way to go to that with the research and then the disseminating that information out to the public and feedback. So what we would like to do tonight is get a little feedback from this commission on your thoughts and preferences and ideas of moving forward. And one thing I wanted to mention that both Elma and St. Louis do work very well together on a multitude of things. Currently, when you look at the numbers that we do, we share or we back each other up with our police department between Elma and St. Louis. Those numbers are pretty impressive. And that all has to do about staffing too, and that's why we've had to do that. Also, both our communities share water with the Gratiot Area Water Authority, which has worked out very well for both communities. We share assessing services. We share in transportation services through Slipper, and we have a mutual aid agreement also with St. Louis with the fire department services. All these agreements and shared services are a benefit not only to St. Louis but also to our community as well. So we have a really good track record here of working together and figuring these things out. So with that, just like to get the commission's input.
In the packet that you had sent us, and it was very informative, thank you, but you did state that you didn't see where money would necessarily be saved with the merger, and I'm a little bit confused by that, because usually like when school districts merge, administration is where they save money, because if you merge, do you need as big of an administration staff if you're merging? So is none of that included in this?
Yeah, there would be a change in the organization command structure, and that's to be determined, but they've kind of got an outline of what that would look like. But initially, we're not looking to cut people. So you would be with what we have with the two departments, bringing them together, and then as you figure out what you actually need for coverages between Alma and St. Louis, you could look at through, if you needed to, if that was what happened, reduction in service or reduction in staff to meet what you need through attrition, people moving on to other opportunities, those sorts of things. To do it in a way that's positive for both sides, both departments and the officers and everybody involved, you'd want to bring them all together. And that's where you really don't say anything on the front end necessarily, but you would say then, right now both departments have trainers that are paid, for training certain things. That's helpful to right off the bat. We just went through our certification with the Chiefs of Police Association here in Alma. If that was merged in, the departments come in and our new authority would come in underneath that accreditation. Those sort of things are positive right off the bat, that you don't have to recreate the wheel for both departments. But yes, that's a good question, and that's a question that's going to come up often, I think, across the communities as we move forward.
Yeah, because it's usually an assumption if you combine, you only need one chief then, but that's not what this merger would look like.
Well, my understanding, Lori, is the initial impetus behind this is not necessarily money savings. There may be some longer-term savings out there, but it's really a service issue. It's the ability to recruit and retain officers and provide the services that the communities need. So it's really hoping to do that. There will be some initial costs, like you said. The plan is not to lay people off and to cut staff for savings. The idea is to, keep everybody working, employed as similar to the level they're in now, I would presume, although all that has to be worked out. But the idea is to improve services for the two communities, and then perhaps there may be some savings down the road, but there's also, when you merge two things, there's going to be some upfront costs that are one-time expenditures that you're going to incur in the first year or two as well, so.
Thank you.
I don't think it showed that there'd be like a huge increase in
No, I don't
cost.
believe, no.
So,
cost will
the
go up.
benefits of merging, yes, people would like to save money. I think, that is an excellent question, but I think the impetus behind this was more giving us more coverage, more clout, so to speak, or ability to work more uniformly together and provide services. I don't feel like we have an overabundance of officers at either department. And so hopefully, ideally, it would be more beneficial working together.
Initially, I would expect to see better service to the communities more than savings.
That answers my question on it. I was wondering about our accreditation, if that would affect ours to bring another department in, but if ours would still be accredited, the whole department would be accredited. I know our guys and St. Louis guys work closely together all the time. You often see two police cars parked, one Alma and one St. Louis, conferring on something, and the police log often says, this is St. Louis Police Department, and that kind of thing. So, it's been working as long as all of the people involved are pretty much in favor of it. If the three officers standing in the back aren't waiting to come up here and, break our faces if we do this kind of thing, I see it as a good benefit. I think especially on hiring and retention, it's going to be much easier if we're not competing for the same officer, the same candidates, and they're gonna pick which one is gonna have the better, pay a little bit more, have the better hours or whatever, one police department. I think that's a great idea. I just want to caution, we like to condense things into other terms like slipper. I don't want to see the St. Louis Alma Police Department be known as slapped.
Well, that would be a to-be-determined name.
Take that one off the table.
Yeah. But that's a good point, Roger. This would be an actual merger. This would not be one department absorbing the other department. This would be a creation of a new authority with both communities. So just like, kind of like the Gratiot Water Authority, it's not St. Louis, it's its own authority.
I thought the numbers provided on mutual aid were really informative too, in terms of how useful this could be, and I can certainly understand the challenges with being short-staffed and having that additional backup available. So it made a lot of sense.
As you move forward, we are gonna see more requirements for our officers. That's why the accreditation that the department received is important, because those are right now above the standard, but those will be the standard very soon. So, and the best way to serve what we're talking about here may be the best way to serve both our communities in the most efficient way possible with what we have. And as you've seen through there, at the front end, the cars, the badges, the facilities, those are things, the cars and things would be kind of through attrition that as soon as you need to replace a new car, whatever your new name is, that would be tagged that way. The same thing with uniforms. We both have very good facilities in this city hall and over at St. Louis. Actually, both of them have been renovated within the last 7 years or so. So we don't need to go out and try to raise a bond to build a new facility. We could use our own buildings and facilities we have currently. So, and that's where we're at.
I think you're looking for direction of some sort from this commission.
Move forward.
Okay. I think that probably says it well, unless somebody sees any objections to this. It seems like a very, very large net positive for both communities at the end of the day, to me, at least in the initial phases here. So, and appreciation to everybody. I know a number of you in the room that have been working on this, and appreciation for that. I know you've already put a lot of hours into this, so thank you. Okay. I think that's all you need for now.
All right, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Code enforcement, that's been a hot topic of discussion for the last couple months and previous. What I wanted to give you was a rundown of the properties that we've been working on that aren't just a mowing project or someone not taking in their trash cans. I won't go through the addresses, those are on there if someone wants to go look them up. But as you can see, there's a lot of properties there in various states of process of where we're at with them. The majority that we can't get necessarily done internally are waiting to go to either district court through injunctive relief, and those are blight type cases, or circuit court, which is a more involved blight or case that it's a much higher level of a case that needs to happen. Also, under anything that's a structurally unsafe building, it requires a building official letter to start the whole process. And our building official is shared throughout the county, so there's times when we don't necessarily have direct conduit to them to get that letter out as fast as some people would expect. But as you can see through there, some good progress has been made on all those properties, and they're not easy properties. Some of these properties, it will be a burden on some of these folks if we have to go to the point where you take them to court and those sorts of things. There's a reason why a couple of these have a roof system that's failed or that sort of thing. So, but we wanted to provide you an update where we're at with those, and very soon, here in September, early September and late August will be for the district court and circuit court cases will go there. So, kind of related to that, but not related, the church on Downey Street. We have projects where people want things torn down, and other ones where someone wants something saved. The Saginaw Diocese did receive a letter from the Michigan chapter, and I won't try to do their acronym because it's weird, but documentation and conservation of buildings, sites, and neighborhoods of the modern movement, and they're located out of Plymouth. They did send this letter to the Saginaw Diocese and asked if I would provide a copy of that in your newsletter, which we did. Also, I included a copy of our downtown historic district map that is a part of the National Registry of Historic Places, and which was nominated by the Michigan Historic Preservation Review Board in May of 2013, and we were approved with that map. And that paperwork was paid for by a grant from the state of Michigan. When you look at that map, you'll notice that not all the buildings within that district are considered contributing properties, i.e. meaning that they're historically significant. What was included in there was the Maples building on the corner of Downey and State Street. And then outside of the DDA district, and these are the only two properties that are outside the DDA district, is the Amy Wright Mansion on the corner of Downey and State, and the Wilcox building where United Way is currently located. They did include those as historically significant in the district. At the time, and it's been since 2013, I do not remember why. We did have a conversation about should the church be included in that district, but it was excluded. I cannot remember why. Why that they felt that wasn't appropriate at that time. I just don't remember what it was. So, but anyway, that is the district that we have in the downtown, and there is some buildings in town that are on the National Registry or on the State Registry individually. So I just wanted to provide that information to you. The other two items in the newsletter are on the agenda here later. Urban deer, I did have that conversation with our Michigan DNR wildlife representative about the lethal management option. They would help us out with a managed hunt, but he did provide me some recommendations that before you go that far to remove the deer population in that manner, that you figure out what your desired outcomes are. Not we want to get our deer down to 100 deer or 50 deer, but we don't want them chewing on our plants. So we don't want, more, we want to lessen the deer car crashes. What do you want to do? And then from there, look at the best ways to accomplish those things. And if it is through a managed hunt, that once you do one, you're gonna have to do one every other year or so. And then you can measure, is it really accomplishing what you're after? For instance, the easiest one to measure is typically people do get a police report on a car deer collision for their insurance purposes. That's an easy one to see right away. That say you had 50 in a year, which is not that much, but just simple numbers, 50 in 1 year, and then the next, and you do have a managed hunt, and then after that hunt, you only have 48. Did you really accomplish what you were looking at? That's what he's saying. Did you really accomplish what you're looking to do?
I'm excited about these deer.
Yeah, coming through with it.
Did he offer any insight on whether they believe that it's?
There is more deer than what we can handle. They will not deny any farmer a permit to hunt, basically any time of year.
No, I mean for us, for cities to do a managed, and how, I know this is logistics and not something we necessarily, but how on earth do you do a managed hunt, where we're so contained and populated? I think of just the building I spent the day at. Manage, what, do you just have everybody like locked down? I mean, I don't even.
Nope, there's a process to go through,
Lord.
and it is possible. There, he gave me a example of Meridian Township does it quite regularly. They go as far as training their hunters on what they do and have, and they take out X number of deer a year. I think he gave the number of 100 by that particular citizen group. And then after that, there's another 200 or so they take out in a year, and that's done through their law enforcement. So,
Because they've got free time, right?
well, that's what I'm saying. This is why I say you should have these conversations on what you're truly like trying to do, because it's not just as easy as, you take out a few and then you're good and you're done and everyone's happy with the outcome. So, he did say that he'd be willing to come up and speak at a commission meeting, and kind of just walk through, but we'd like to have some, what would we like to see happen if we were trying to manage this population, so he could come up and speak to those desired outcomes. So, it was a good conversation. We're not the only one dealing with it, and like I said, the state of Michigan is down in the number of hunters, so that means there's less people out there trying to take them, and that hasn't helped with the amount of deer. And these deer aren't stupid. They figure out that I can run out there and we're surrounded by farmland. They go out, eat their corn or soybeans, and they make their way back into town. So, but anyway, if commission would like to think about some things that we'd like to see as outcomes, we can start to look at what we have and then work with DNR, and then we can go from there. But anyway, that's the one thing that he made sure to point out to me as we were discussing. And then upcoming events. Everyone always says there's nothing going on, but for the next few months, it just seems like there's nonstop. School just got started. The public schools just got started today also. But we just had Alamo Live on Saturday. Thanks to everyone that came out for that. We typically have it in September for that, so it was a different time of year. Kids' activities went great, and thanks for everyone to stick around for the dueling pianos. Last year, I think by 10 o'clock, we had maybe a small group of 20 or so people that were still there. We had, 150 or so still out there at 10 o'clock, so appreciate everyone coming out and enjoying that. This Thursday, US 27 tour will be in downtown from 1:30 to 3 o'clock. Wednesday, Thursday next week, 30th and 31st, the Dalmac bicycle riders from Lansing to Mackinac will be coming through. We usually see about 1,100 between the 2 days, and we have a free snack area down at Riverside Park, and it's a nice PR for the community. The high school parade will be on September 23rd. The college homecoming parade is on September 30th. The Lucky McDuck Day is September 9th at Highland Park by the library. Fall Festival will be in downtown on the 19th of October. We have a scheduled train visit from Owasso on October 14th, the 12:25, and then Christmas is right around the corner after that. On December 8th and 9th for the downtown celebration, Come Home Down with the holidays, and the next day we have our 5K, 10K, and reindeer trot to help us raise money for downtown Christmas decorations.
Aaron, can I ask you a quick question? The parking lots are not finished yet. I know with Alamo Live, they shut down the road, Superior, in the morning, even though it didn't start till like 3 o'clock. That really hurt those businesses, not being able to, people couldn't park behind them because the parking lot being not done yet, and then the road being closed. With this not starting on Thursday the 24th till 1:30, is that going to still be that same thing, that you're going to close the road first thing in the morning again?
It'll be in the morning, but what we put out for that particular program is some cones that have a sign on those that basically says, please be off the street by 11:30 or whatever that time period is, so we don't have cars parked there when they show up. you have to kind of manage the time what the guys have to come
That's
out,
what I
set
figured.
things up. It's not like a normal neighborhood street where you can just shut this particular street off here and here and then you're legal. The state trunk line requires a little bit more work and time to put together. For next year, obviously, for wherever we were doing for Alma Live or whatever that event will be called, we'll look at that, because obviously you try to tweak things each year on what you can do.
Which
but-
it's not a problem if the back parking lots are available.
Right.
The parking lot wasn't available, so there was no place to park for those businesses.
Yeah.
Also, on Thursday, there's going to be about 300 to 400 cars times 2 occupied, so businesses should, you can go to their, on Facebook page, US 27 has a Facebook page for their tour, so you can go promote your business and welcome them to your business.
Yeah, I know, they know all that. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about people that regularly, just in first thing in the morning, want to go to one of those businesses.
Right.
The road blocked off, they can't get to them because of the parking lot not being
Yeah.
done. That was fine.
No, that's, we always look at things and see how we can do something better for the next year, but in this particular case for Thursday, there's a cone and a sign that basically is just, if you're still there at whatever time, it was kind of your.
Yep.
You might be stuck there.
You're stuck there.
Move you with the fire.
Yep. And then lastly, next commission meeting on September 12th, I'd like to request on the commission go into executive session to do my annual manager evaluation. So just allow some extra time for afterwards. We'll get done with the items on the agenda, and before we adjourn, we'll go in there and take care of that.
Okay, any more comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. And we have received the manager's report. Motion's passed. Appointments, we need to consider a resolution to approve the following appointments to the Alma Public Arts Advisory Council. And the individuals listed are Nancy Gallagher, Diane Kleiss, Nick Piccolo, Chris Brown, Eric Ripley, Carla Jensen, Sarah Bonacci, Brian Sheets, and Sarah Wassenaar. Your pleasure in adopting these folks.
Support.
Good motion, support.
Yes.
Make some color on this?
Yes, we've been working on this for a while. We probably took, gosh, I don't know how many months ago it was when we first brought something to this board. But the next step is we have a charge for this group, and these individuals represent different organizations across the city. Their charge will basically be to an advisory council for art to this board to help with the master planning of any public spaces such as downtown or the parks themselves. This board will have no fiduciary responsibilities. It will be strictly an advisory, much like the Parks and Rec Committee to this board. So these folks have been good enough to step up and start the process, and it's good timing because in September we will be starting the master planning process and updating the Alma Live as an economic development tool, and the arts will be part of those discussions.
Appreciate those people stepping forward.
Anybody else, comments, questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is carried. We've made some appointments. Thank you. Unfinished business. We have a presentation from Mr. Steve Brown regarding concerns about blighted property in Alma. Mr. Brown, welcome.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, Eric, Adam, Sarah, particularly Sarah, thank you for getting me on the agenda. We'll talk, I'd like to talk a bit about the blight problem we have at 702 Gratiot, which is something that we've talked about before back in January and February. But before I go there, I'd like to compliment everyone on the Alma Live thing. It was really a cool event, especially dueling pianos, and I discovered I know how to play the rubber chicken.
And very well.
Who knew? So let's get on to 702 Gratiot. And before I get started, I guess I'd like to ask all the neighbors who are here if they would raise their hands and show us how many people are here to talk about 702 Gratiot property. So it is something that is of quite a concern to the neighborhood. So The overview that you see on the screen here, thank you, Sarah, for that. This is kind of what we talked about last time I was here, or we were here. And there's a blighted property at 702 Gratiot. It's been vacant forever, non-occupied. Absentee owner. We feel it prevents health, safety, and economic concerns to our neighborhood. As described here, dilapidated unsightly, a harbor for vermin, feral cats, raccoons, possums are just a few of the critters that we've seen inside or around the house quite a bit. Public health hazard due to the presence of vermin, poisonous vegetation, and just the way the property's overgrown, perhaps a haven for illicit activities, who knows? And also of concern to us, of course, is that we feel it negatively affects our property value. So, again, we talked about this in January and February. I know that the city had done some things to try to contact the owner to get things moving, but frankly, nothing's happened, at least that we know or can see as neighbors. So, wanted to bring the issue back up before the city commission, and just to kind of remind everybody what we're dealing with. You saw pictures from the winter. These are pictures from the summer. Actually looks worse in the summer with all the vegetation overgrowing the property. So street view from Walnut, street view from Gratiot. Obviously the place is pretty bad. If you want to move on, there's a little close-up to give you an idea of, stuff falling off the house, holes you can see in around the door frames and the foundation. So it's in pretty rough shape. Proceed, please, to the next slide. To give you an idea of the vegetation, here's the east side yard of the house, bordering on the Kablacki's property just east of it, and the stuff in there is 4 feet tall. I don't know what it is. It's all kinds of noxious weeds and undergrowth. The north side yard is completely covered with grown trees, and again, it's quite a mess. Proceed, please. There were apparently or reportedly some remediation measures performed in the March-April timeframe of this year after our last meetings on the subject, and yeah, they did a little bit. There's a pile of brush a minor pile of brush that they cut. They left it laying in the yard. That was clearing the vegetation out, I guess. One of the points we complained about was the front screen door swinging back and forth in the wind. You can see the little white box sitting in front of the screen door. That's to keep the door closed. The box blows away sometimes, and the door swings back and forth when someone puts the box back. So I'd also heard reports that they'd gone into the basement and tried to patch some holes where the cats were getting in. You wouldn't know it from the neighborhood because there's still cats aplenty around, but perhaps that worked. But that's what we can see about what's been done to the place. So, next slide, please. We feel very strongly that there are at least 3 city ordinances this property violates. I don't think we need to go into these in great detail, and the ordinance goes on with what the remedies are, what the city is able to do to address these ordinance violations. So again, this is just kind of a reminder of what we see, the blight problem at this property, what it violates. Next slide, please. So, in conclusion, as I mentioned before, us in the neighborhood are very concerned about the condition at 702 Gratiot, and the condition that was described earlier. The property clearly violates several city ordinances. As described in the referenced ordinances, the city has many options for forcing the absentee owner to remediate these problems. And I've come to recently understand that there's a new municipal infractions ordinance that Alma adopted some time ago, which it's actually not on the city website yet, but I've heard it exists, and it allows the issue to be handled via district court. And I think Adam or Eric referenced this earlier. to handle it via district court instead of circuit court, which is a lower cost option, I believe, for the city and a more direct and expedient way to handle the whole thing. Maybe Adam can speak to this in a little bit. So I would urge the city to consider this as a way to try to address their problem, should you all see fit. So that's really what I wanted to do, is remind you all that the problem exists. It hasn't gotten any better. You can see from who all's here that there's quite a bit of neighborhood support for this, and I ask you guys to do something. So, thank you. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Questions? Okay, I guess none for you right now, so
Okay.
thank you for your presentation.
I'll be on deck in case you need me.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Steve.
Questions beyond, I guess maybe for staff is probably what I'm guessing is the question.
Yeah, I'd like to know where we are with it, because it does seem like we do have something that we can use to take them to court.
If you'd like, Mr. City Manager, I'm happy to address it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for the presentation. As it stands right now, I've met with Michael Carr of the Alma Law Enforcement, and he's issued a citation to the owner of 702 Gratiot. I filed that citation with the district court. We have a court hearing coming up in the first week of September. And just to remind everyone as to how that process goes, so the owner's been cited for a civil infraction for violating the city's blight ordinance. There's a provision under the revised Judicare Act that allows the district court some limited equitable authority, and the district court is allowed to issue any order that's necessary to compel compliance with the ordinance. So our position is that not only do we want the fines paid and the attorney's fees reimbursed, but we want an equitable order compelling compliance with the ordinance. In other words, fixing the blight. So whatever the blight may be, whether it's overgrowth of vegetation, whether it's unsightly rubbish or trash in the yard or around the property, all of that would be included in the order that we're requesting. And so typically for these matters, the judge will try to have the parties come to a resolution if possible. For the majority of these cases, what we do is we meet with the defendant before the court hearing proceeds, and we try to work on an arrangement which typically consists of providing the defendant with X number of days to fix the problem. And if they do not fix the problem within X number of days, then the city has permission to go onto the property and fix the problem at the defendant's expense. So that's typically the way that these go. If the defendant will not agree to that, then eventually it would proceed to a formal hearing with the district court judge, Judge McDonald, where we would need to have witnesses testify, establish the blight, and then essentially ask the judge, and the judge would make a ruling on what's appropriate. In my experience, upwards of 90%, probably closer to 95% of these cases settle, and they are resolved by way of an agreed resolution. And so, but again, we always ensure, unless there's something very unusual, we ensure that there's some teeth behind the resolution where if the defendant does not comply and does not fix the problem, then we're allowed to go onto the property and fix the problem, so we don't have to keep going back to court perpetually and just having things drug out. So that will be accomplished, that court hearing will be accomplished in September. As I said, the tickets are already been issued and filed. The defendant property owner is difficult to communicate with, and so generally first-class mail is acceptable to effectuate service on the defendant, but in this case I have retained a process server because we've had some mail come back that was intended for the defendant. So we just want to be sure that he's received it, and we don't want any excuses about why he or she may not appear in court. So it's in the hands of a process server right now to effectuate service. I believe the defendant lives in the Diamonddale area, and so in the next 2-3 days, I believe service will be effectuated. So that's the plan going forward, and I'll certainly keep the commission abreast and the folks who have an interest in this abreast of any developments. But I do think that Eric and myself and the rest of the city staff share Mr. Brown and the other neighbors' concerns. You know, we realize that it certainly is a blighted structure and a property, and So our goal, again, is not to simply convey some monetary fine on the defendant, but our goal is to have the issue remediated and fixed and put it in a position where it does not happen anymore in the future. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that there may be.
You have it. Thank you. You have it. Okay.
I just have a curiosity question.
Sure.
Let's say we end up doing where we fix it and incur the cost. What if they don't pay us? Will it eventually become our property and we can sell it?
So how we typically do it is we have that agreement where we agree upon whatever number of days we can agree on. And so usually that's where the negotiation occurs, because what we typically say to the defendant is, if we go to court, we're going to request it be immediate, that we go in today and fix it. But if you can come to an agreement, we'll give you whatever, 15 days, 30 days, and usually try to give some number of days for them to fix it. So let's say they don't. Let's say we come to an agreement where we give X number of days, but they don't comply and they don't fix it. We go onto the property, we fix it for them, either through city staff or through engaging a third party. We total up the cost of that endeavor. We invoice them. They have 30 days to pay the invoice. If they don't pay the invoice in 30 days, it gets added onto their property taxes as a lien, and it's collected and treated in the same manner as any other property tax lien, which would mean they have to pay us. If they don't pay us, it goes to the county, who reimburses us. And eventually, if it goes 3 years without them paying us, then they would lose the property to tax foreclosure. And so under that scenario, we would get the first right of refusal to buy the property if we wanted. But obviously, that's a way off. So, yeah. So, but again, the way that we ensure that we get repaid is to place a lien on the property, and it's under the General Property Tax Act, it's treated in the same manner as other property tax liens. So, that's our method to ensure reimbursement to the best of our ability.
And the property has been cited for the backyard and mowing. We've been trying to get a mower out there to mow it, but that's been difficult. We've been working on that for over 3 weeks. As Adam mentioned, the current mailing address came back, no forwarding address. The phone number that the code enforcement official had no longer works. So we will take care of the backyard underneath the lawn ordinance, and that's can be put right onto the property taxes right away, like we do every year with everything else if they don't pay it. This will be expensive. This is something that we will put out from the city side of things first, and hopefully they pay the taxes eventually and we get that back. But that will be happening hopefully within the week or so, at least the backyard mode, but the other things that are attached to the house and the house itself are something that needs to go through.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add, if I may, is we have to be somewhat circumspect with how we approach private property. Obviously, we're a governmental entity, so we're not permitted to just walk onto private property and enter a house or something like that. That's not allowed. Mowing the grass is an exception under our ordinance. So the other thing I would know is that all judges have different personalities, and so it would be nice, in my view, if every judge, you go up to them and you establish the violation, and they give you what you want right away. But I've seen it before where judges, even though it's not required in the law, judges do like for you to try to work with the property owner, give them every opportunity. And so I would just note that that's part of the reason why we've been trying to be amenable to this property owner. So that way, when we go to court, when Judge McDonald says, "Can't you work it out?" or "Can't you try to talk to him?" we can say to the judge, "We've tried to talk to him and we've given him this many opportunities." And so I think that will be viewed favorably by the judge, so that it's clear we're not trying to just bust someone on a technicality. We've given them every opportunity, and they basically forced our hand into this judicial route. So I know it's somewhat frustrating as the matter has occurred, and there's been not tremendous signs of visual progress, but I just wanted to assure the neighbors that it's sort of all part of a larger plan to eventually get a court order to fix the problem that exists right now and to prevent the problem from reoccurring in the future.
I would assume that when we talk about fixing problems, that it's defined in a way to where a box in front of a door is not an acceptable fix. Right.
So the city has a blight ordinance, and so it defines blight. Usually blight is defined very broadly, but it's going to include things that are unsightly or offensive by sight. So it's going to include overgrowth of vegetation and weeds and grass. It's going to include safety concerns as well. And to some extent, and obviously as we get more into it, there could be other ordinances that come into play, like the dangerous building ordinance. The state of Michigan has a housing code which regulates buildings and to ensure they're safe. So there could be aspects to the building, for example, if the foundation were in disrepair, that may not be a blight issue, but that could be a dangerous building issue. So there could be other aspects that come into it. But yes, we are limited in terms of what we can do, and we sort of have to stay within the constraints of the blight ordinance. And that's what provides the owner some protection from us walking up and, saying, well, we don't like that color. I mean, that's obviously not blight, that's just a personal determination. But obviously, as we saw in the photographs, I think there's certainly a sufficient amount of blight in this case to justify taking action. So, our main avenues towards this will be the blight ordinance, the dangerous building ordinance, and also the revised Judica ordinance, statute, state of Michigan law, which again allows the district courts that equitable authority. When the court orders you to do something or not do something that's equitable in nature, and usually district courts don't have that power. Usually that's reserved for circuit courts, but this is one exception where when someone's cited for a civil infraction, the district court is allowed to enter an order to basically make them comply with the ordinance. And so that's how we stop. In some cases where folks don't know how to enforce these ordinances, and other municipalities I've seen, they'll issue these citations and the property owner will just go in and pay the $100 fine and just keep doing it. And so that's how we stop it from perpetually occurring. And again, I know we're interested in recouping our expenses, but we're not interested in the owner paying a $100 fine and just continuing the behavior. We want the behavior to stop and the property to be remedied.
Can I ask a couple of quick questions of Adam, or is that not in order at this point?
I don't believe that's in order at this point. I did have a question. What did we exactly cite for? I mean, there was a number of issues that were raised that we could potentially have cited this property owner for. What method did we take, or what? Is it just the blight ordinance we cited them for?
The one that we sent down citation was the lack of mowing the backyard. That one we can,
Well, that's like a no-brainer. I mean, that's
what I mean. We can do that. Well, it's going to cost some serious money to take care of too. So
well, we don't have to go to court to go on the property and mow.
That's what. Yes, that's the one that's being. Like I said though, we've been after trying to get someone to come over there and mow for close to a month now, trying to get someone over to mow that. So it isn't like someone hasn't been trying to do something. That citation was sent back, undeliverable. The phone number they had used to work, doesn't work anymore. So that's why they went through the processor to send down the stuff for the blight stuff, which is the stuff all attached to the building and the building itself. So that will have to go through the injunctive relief with the court system.
Mr. Mayor, just to follow up on the city manager's comments, the citation did state blight, and so it's, in my experience, it's better to keep it more general than not, in the sense of we want to identify what the issue is, and we want to identify the ordinance that we're referencing. But we don't want to identify things with too much specificity, because then what happens is the defendant will just fix that one thing and not everything else. And in circumstances like this, it's difficult to identify every conceivable blighted issue. And by the time we get to court, there could be other blighted issues that may not exist on the day that the citation was issued. But yes, in the description of the citation and in the section number, it was the blight ordinance that was referenced.
But we also sent a citation previous to that.
Yes, correct.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think we have an escalation on that. Every time you get cited, the price goes up or the fine goes up.
It can go, yes.
So at some point, maybe we need to reevaluate that, because it doesn't seem to be factored, not just on this property, but we seem to have a growing issue across the town of people neglecting their properties.
Well, didn't we a couple of years ago raise the
Yeah.
lawn mowing charge to a ridiculous thing just because
Well-
it was cheaper for them to wait for us to do it than it was to
I
hire?
believe that's why we had an escalation in it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
50 the first time, 100 and 110,
Yeah,
whatever the numbers were.
can
But
be
it
quite
probably needs to be
expensive,
looked
I
at
think.
again because it doesn't seem to be motivating people the way
it
it
should.
once did.
The ones that are in your packet are ones that fining won't help. It just doesn't. They need eventually they need some kind of remedy either through the court or through the dangerous building, and you start with the building official. You need the building official to come and say it's a dangerous building, him write a letter to the owner of that to start that process. And like Adam said, building official has to give them a certain amount of days to contact them and say it's a foundation. And they say, here's my plan to fix it. And my experience, a lot of those people will give you a plan and then, renege on that plan, and it's always something, health issue, family issue, weather. There's always something. So fining for those types of people really doesn't get you anywhere. All it does is create a bunch of invoices that hopefully that the court will look at. In a lot of cases, if those folks have less means, the judge is usually a little more, at least what I've seen, a little more gentle than someone that has means, or has company or something like that has something that they can fix or take away from them.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, just to double on Eric's comments, there's sort of two avenues in order to obtain compliance. One is the fine issue, and essentially the recognition that if you don't stop this, you're going to keep getting citations and keep getting fines. The other is this injunctive relief, which, irrespective of the fine, we're seeking to obtain an order from the judge to compel compliance with the ordinance. And so even if the person only received one citation and was subject to a $50 fine, we can still obtain the order from the judge requiring compliance with the ordinance, requiring the property to be cleaned up.
Thanks, Adam.
Point of order, if I may. I think Steve, this is subject to correction. I think Steve may have the right to ask him questions because we're still under his presentation on order of business.
Part of the agenda.
Yeah. Is that the case?
That sound right?
Can you ask questions?
He asked if he could ask you a question.
Suggest maybe he could go back to the podium and, if not ask questions, at least raise some points that maybe could be.
Adam, do you think that is appropriate?
Yes,
You're the attorney.
Yes, thank you. I think what I would advise clients is that I think the applicant, in this case, Steve, the subject of the petition, certainly has the right to return to the podium and make additional comments, and then I think the commission has the right to consider the questions, and we're not obligated to answer it, but we certainly have the right to consider them.
These are very simple questions.
Okay.
What's the date of the district court hearing?
So-
This is right here.
The date I originally obtained was September 6th, but I think it may get pushed to September 19th because the judge's staff told me that we have multiple hearings. I think we have 5 hearings scheduled for all blight issues, and the judge doesn't have time to hear them all on September 6th, and I think they want to hear them all in one day. So I think ultimately it will end up being September 19th.
That's open to the public, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And this most recent citation, when did this occur?
When did it occur?
Yeah.
Last week.
Last week.
But again, there was a previous citation that Eric had sent.
That was months ago.
Prior to that.
So it was over a month ago.
Yeah. Those are my questions. I don't have any additional comments, but thank you for...
Okay, Rich, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
I did have another question. You said you've been trying to get somebody on the property to mow it. Apparently our mower this year has been not as responsive as we've had in the contractor.
I've had some, yes.
Had some challenges.
Yes, you've had some challenges. This one, I understood a little bit, but, that's why it's gonna cost a little more, because we've reached out to a, higher end
Somebody probably
landscape
needs a
company.
brush
Yeah, well,
hog or something.
They need a gas-powered trimmer for sure, to take care of it, so, yeah. But yes, that's,
And did you ever send city staff on to do this if a mower doesn't?
I try to keep city staff away from those types of things. It's probably not gonna save any money to do it that way, and plus,
Well, not just save money, just to get it done.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, yeah. But I typically try to keep city off of blight type issues.
I know it's cleaner if you don't do city, but the neighbors have been dealing with this for a long time, and it seems like a month is a long time to go without mowing. Especially, I know the way my grass is growing, it's like twice a week I've been out there, so.
But that's what's happened back in that backyard.
Okay. Anybody else have any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. Did you have anything else on your report that you want to cover, Eric?
No.
Okay. Or anything? Okay. Mr. Brown, you are completed with your presentation?
I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Did you get a motion to receive the report for the presentation? I would entertain a motion that we receive the report then.
So moved. Support.
Any comments or questions? Last chance. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried. We received your report, and thank you again. Moving to new business, we are to consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application to the Michigan Community Center Grant Program for the development of a recreation programming department, and also to authorize the city manager to sign the grant certification form on behalf of the city of Alma and to execute the grant application. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion support. So if you add a little color for us,
Sure
please.
thing, yes. This is some funding that's available through the Michigan Rescue Plan Act and the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. What we're looking to apply for is a non-match funding program to allow us to put together a recreational program if we do receive the money through 2026. Like I said, this is no match, but we thought the one of the things that we are lacking, even though we do have a millage that we send down to the county for recreation, we do not have any recreational programming. Our library does a tremendous job of putting together some programs for the little ones in the community and some younger teenager ages, but we are missing the rest of the age groups. So we thought it would be worth a shot to request some funding to try to do that over the next time period and evaluate if we do receive the grant, how that went, and then speak with the community if that was something that they find valuable, that how do we go forward funding some programming throughout the community.
Good. Looks good. Comments or questions? Let's go for it. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Good luck. Any indication from the odds of actually receiving funding for this, or I suspect
sure-
it's going to be
I'm sure-
well subscribed to?
Yep, we're just hoping that since we're going to be requesting it for programming only, we're not requesting anything for capital, that we do have assets in the community to use, that this would be more of a benefit to what they're looking to have happen for the community as opposed to just building another building.
Okay, thank you. Next up, appropriations. Is there any interest in paying bills tonight?
Move to approve.
Support.
Got motion support. Any comments or questions on those bills? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. Motion is carried and we have paid the bills. Commissioner comments. Roxanne, would you like to start out? Back to school.
Yay, back to school. It was a wonderful day. It's good to have staff and students back in the building, so it was great. I had received a call from someone, a citizen, inquiring if we force citizens to use our city library. The answer is no. And if we tell citizens which books to read or check out, of which the answer is also no. So I'm just putting it out there, get ahead of the curve of who's asking or curious about that. We do not force anyone. It is a wonderful establishment with lots of different materials but no one is forced as a citizen to use our library or told what to, or what not to check out. So, that's all.
Interesting. To say the least. Roger?
Nothing really. We've got a lot of stuff going on in town. There's so many things to take advantage of. Do it.
You forced people to do that?
Force people.
It's mandatory we go to Lucky McDuck.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. My ducks.
Okay, my ducks, yes. Get your crack back here. At the farm market? Is
Farm market.
Gonna be there again?
Yep.
Terrific, thank you. Lori?
I noticed we didn't talk about the trees today. We were going to, is that going to be next meeting? It was going to still be discussed on if we're going to do it all at once or in
What I
stages.
probably the best way to probably proceed with that is to work with the DDA and this commission to kind of walk through that. Because like we discussed at the last meeting, I don't want to be 5 years from now when we do have the trees put back in, the ones we put back in, having the same issues that we had, that people had.
So we're
To
going
take
to
out,
be meeting.
yeah, the trees are going to be messy. No matter what we do, trees are going to drop something. They're going to drop something that helps them reproduce, and they're going to drop some foliage, no matter what types of trees we got. So after going through this, again, want it really, really well documented, why we chose the trees we did, and that everybody understood that, yes, this is going to have some mess to it in some way, because the trees we currently have, the pods were always an issue, and then the little leaves. Well, some of these trees that they're looking at, that the state of Michigan State provided as recommended trees, one of them is a big rubbery leaf. So that's sometimes a little bit harder to maintain and keep up. So yes, we will.
I was just wondering if we were going to still discuss it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think most of that discussion did take place at the DDA meetings, and I believe the recommendation actually came from them. So we'd probably be looking for them to modify the recommendation, and that's, to me, appropriate body to be providing us with some guidance, I would think. That makes sense.
Yep.
So
Other than that, I just want to
DDA
make sure
meetings
we're-
are open to the public as well, and there should be scheduled on the websites. I forget, is it third Wednesday?
Fourth Wednesday.
Fourth Wednesday, okay. Thank you. Anything else, Lori? Sorry. Michelle?
I just wanted to follow up on the meeting that I was at 2 meetings ago. There was a public comment about how a resident or a guest had came into town and how our town was disgraced, or it didn't look right, it wasn't welcoming, or too many things were wrong. And I just want to remind everybody that there is a lot of wonderful things happening in the city. All towns have some issues that we're all working on, but we have to, like Roger said, there are great activities going on. Our students are thriving back in the school. They're busy, they're excited. We just have to remember, with all our guests that are coming into town the next 2 weeks, let's try to welcome them with open arms and show them how nice it is, instead of the negative that we had been hearing a couple weeks ago.
Just wanted to say thank you and congratulations to everybody involved with the Lion King downtown. I know some are in this room, and also Elmo Live. I thought that was a fantastic event, and yeah, I stayed right till the end of those pianos. So I had a great time.
Sarah?
Nothing else, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just thank Kurt Giles, City Manager of St. Louis, for coming tonight, and Richmond Rodriguez from the Police Chief for St. Louis. I appreciate the work we've been doing so far to look at this possible merger between the two departments. It's rare when you can have those kind of conversations, and I appreciate that. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Telling right off, I have to take issue with you. I don't think it's rare that Elm and St. Louis are getting along and cooperating. I mean, you listed earlier in your talk that there's a number of things that we do together and have done for really decades now, and I think we can all be really proud of the cooperation we have between our two cities, and thank you for that, and all the work that's going into this project, as well as all the past ones that continue to succeed for us all. So thanks for that. Congratulations to everybody on all the events that are going on. I'm sure most of these Lucky McDuck Chamber events, VDA events, whatever they are, they always need more volunteers. You know, if you don't find anything to do in town, you're not looking very hard, you're not trying very hard to find things, there's a lot of things that you can help with. So please step forward and volunteer, or just go and enjoy them. There's, you know, all that hard work goes into it. The more people we have turn out, the better. So with that, we'd like to open up the floor to the members of the public. If you'd like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to share your thoughts. Please, go ahead.
Joanne Brown, 308 Walnut. Thank you. I want to first start off by saying thank you to Mr. Mayor, city manager, and everyone for all that you do for our city and our community. It's appreciated. Thank you. You don't probably want to hear any more discussion about blight. I just want to put my perspective on it too. Last time I spoke to this group, I brought to your attention the diseases that come along with feral animals. And since now we have a menagerie, it's not just the cats, it's opossums and it's raccoons. Please also consider the safety of the members of our community when you look at these places. There is a pregnant woman directly next door to that house with a small child. Directly across the street from that house is a pregnant woman with 5 children. The neighborhood, thankfully, is full of young people walking, strollers, babies, young families together. So the health concern for the people in our community is on my mind, and I just want to share that with you. And I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing toward solving these issues, and continue to work toward being actively involved in it so that the ordinances are enforced in a timely manner so that the properties don't get to the state that 702 is in right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to address the commission tonight?
Excuse me.
My name is Pat Lukemeyer, 496 East Warwick, and I appreciate the time that I have to be able to address the commission. In the spring, I attended the Alma Aspire that was held at the Opera House, and I attended as a part-time employee of Alma College and also as a citizen of Alma community member. And one of the concerns that was voiced repeatedly throughout the room that I heard was the need to find a better way to communicate with the citizens of Alma and Gratiot County about all the wonderful events that we have going on, which we just discussed. I hear quite frequently from people in Alma that there's nothing to do around here. And that is quite irritating to me because there's a lot of things to do around here. People just don't know what they are. And so I am baffled by that comment. So, the other thing that we've been thinking with this Alma Aspire is when new people come to Alma, there is not a centralized area or place that they can go to find out what is happening in our community. So over the summer, Cindy Austin and I put our heads together, along with the help of Sarah Bonacci at the Chamber, and came up with a community Google Calendar entitled GoGratiot.com, which you're actually seeing on the screen right there. We piloted it for a couple of months, and it went live a month ago. There are events on there from Alma College, Alma Public Schools, Child Advocacy, Alma Public Library, City of Alma. We are getting events from the hospital, Masonic Pathways, and the Forest Nature Preserve. And currently, we have a full calendar up there for Alma. And if you go on there, there are sometimes 6 and 7 things going on at one time, and it is very rewarding to see that. All you do is click on the event and something pops up. It tells you everything about it, who to go to for information, and so hopefully this will help our community with that. Currently, there's a complete calendar for Alma, but eventually we hope to have volunteers from other communities in the county, such as St. Louis and Ithaca, to take over the administration of their respective calendars. In the fact that I don't live in either one of those communities, and neither does Cindy, it needs to be somebody that's within that community to take over data mining and putting in the events that people would be interested in. We are also partnering with Alma College to market the calendar, so their marketing department and their senior seminars are helping us to figure out, not only do we have a problem with getting events out there, now we have a problem of getting the fact that we have a calendar out there. So now we're trying to go that direction. So I would like to tonight present a business card to each of you with the website on it, a QR code, and also an email address that you can submit events that you would like to have publicized to the community. We also have a Facebook page called Go Gratiot, where we further push events out to the community. And I would like you to also know that we pushed that Alma Live event. It was on Facebook. It was on everything just about several times a day, every day. And I have a feeling, I don't want to take credit for the great turnout that we had, because I think the good Lord had something to do with that, with the weather. But people knew about it. And I think if we continue to work on this, we can get the word out to people that Alma is a really cool place to live, and we have a lot of things going on. So I just want to tell you all about this, and I'm going to give you a card, and I'll stand back here if people are going out. You can all have a card too, and we'll just keep working on this. So I was also wondering if there'd be a possibility that we could put this website, this GoGratiot.com, on the city website somewhere, so that when people look at there and they say, what's going on in Alma, they can go, especially new people, and they can find it. So this is under the auspices of the Chamber. We did it with Sarah Bonacci from the Chamber, and so if we have any issues or anything, we're working with her with that. So, okay, I did enough promoting.
Great idea. It's very much needed.
Thank you. It has a great picture of our city on it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What types of events are you looking for? Are there exclusions to?
There are exclusions, and we have exclusions on the calendar on what things that, we feel like we have the right to exclude. It says it right there.
It's your calendar, yes.
Well, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as the city's calendar, but if we have a question about whether something should be excluded or not excluded, we check it out with the Chamber also. But there are things that would be excluded. We are not being political, for instance. And we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. For instance, the events on there are open to the public. They're not for just one person or one group. They're open to the public.
Well, let me narrow my question down a little bit for you. My mind is going to our entity here is the City of Alma in our meetings. I mean, would this be a calendar? We have a calendar on our website that we try and maintain, and it was some success to varying degrees on different days depending on what it is. So would your calendar be an appropriate venue for us to post our, like this meeting?
Your meeting is on there.
Those things are already on there, the DDA meetings, the
all of that's on there, correct?
Water Authority.
Yeah.
So that's all on there.
It is, right now. Anything that's open to the public, we're putting on there. So, and we data mine from everybody's websites, Facebook, We also put a thing on there saying that if there are changes to whatever's on there, like the time changes, we're not responsible for that. So that's why we have the information on there for them to contact the original person who's doing whatever meeting if they want to check it out. Because if the time changes and we don't know about it, we didn't change it, and we don't want them to be mad. Actually, they don't even know it's me or Cindy. Our names are not on there anywhere. It's admin almaadmin@gogreshit.com.
I'm just wondering if we could eliminate maintaining our own calendar and just piggyback onto your efforts and join you in using that for our main calendar as well. Public.
Yeah.
Maybe something for staff to look into, and they can go into more details whether it's
We actually do even put like church events on there that are open to the public for the purpose of whatever. We put community cafe on there, for instance. That's a public thing that people should know about. I think there's a thing coming up at the Methodist Church, the Messy Church. They're doing a thing for the public, a back to school thing. So those items are on there too. So
And things like our Halloween.
Halloween is already on there. Somehow we already knew that you were going to approve it.
No. We have a big Halloween party at our church afterwards.
Yes, yeah. As long as it's free and open to the
Yeah.
public.
Okay.
Put that on there.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Who else would like to share with the commission? Anyone? Last chance? Okay, with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Support.
A motion support, last chance for comments. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. We are adjourned. I thank you all for coming tonight and joining us. Look forward to seeing you again soon.